Welcome to this trip on the Polar Bear Express from Cochrane to Moosonee, Ontario, Canada. Cochrane is located in the Great Clay Belt area of northeastern Ontario, and Moosonee is located on the southern tip of James Bay. It's about a 4.5-hour train trip ride on the Polar Bear Express from Cochrane to Moosonee. The ride is very well presented in advertising and attracts thousands of tourists every summer. So popular is the ride that a number of books have been published about it. There's even a computer game out, Railway Tycoon, in which your job is to construct a railway to open up the mineral resources, the farming land, and pulp and paper and hydroelectricity resources of northeastern Ontario. The Timiskaming and Northern Ontario Railway began in 1902, and in 1932 it reached Moosonee. It was called the Ontario Northland Railway in 1946. The Ontario Northland Railway network has 700 miles of mainline track from North Bay up to Moosonee and Hearst. There's connections with the Canadian National and Canadian Pacific Railways in North Bay, and with the Canadian Nationals at Rouyn-Noranda and the Goma Central Railway at Hearst. Although the government tried to sell the Ontario Northland, it's still publicly owned. It has a fleet of 30 diesel-electric locomotives and approximately 810 rail cars, from box cars to lumber cars and passenger coaches. For the Polar Bear Express, there's even a dome car. The Polar Bear Express is only run for tourists during the summer months, and it's a return trip. You leave early in the morning and get back late in the evening with 6 hours in Moosonee and Moose Factory. The trip covers 186 miles of spectacular evergreen and birch forests, shimmering lakes and rushing rivers. There's quite a few web pages out on the trip. The Ontario Northland Railway advertises 4 passenger trains: the Northland, which runs from Toronto to Cochrane; Little Bear, which is a mixed freight that runs from Cochrane to Moosonee with a number of stops; the Polar Bear Express, which runs only in the summer and is a return non-stop trip from Cochrane to Moosonee; and the Dreamcatcher, which runs during the autumn period around Timiskaming to look at the autumn leaves. I've taken the Northlander once from Cochrane to Toronto. It's an overnight trip and was very relaxing, and it was quite a great way to get to Toronto. When I worked in Moosonee and Moose Factory the summers of 1971-72, I frequently took the Little Bear. I paddled down the Moose River and had the train stop to pick up my canoe. It's a long trip. It's about 8 hours and has a number of stops along the way. The Polar Bear Express is a misnomer. It doesn't really travel that quickly, although it does do the trip non-stop in 4.5 hours. It trundles along at about 70 kilometers an hour. And also there's no polar bears. They're much further north in the Hudson Bay, Churchill region. The Little Bear stops at Cochrane, Fraserdale, Otter Rapids, Moose River, and Moosonee. There's quite a few interesting web pages about doing the trip. This one is interesting because it's put up by a tourist company that allows you to actually get off the train and paddle the portion of river from Moose River crossing to Moosonee. I've done that trip in a canoe and it's pretty level, calm water, no rapids, no portages, and it'd probably be a great trip for someone who has not done much canoeing. I was employed by the Ministry of Natural Resources as a historian the year I finished my honours degree in history and went in to do a Master of Arts in Canadian Studies. Part of my job was working on the Cochrane Railway and Pioneer Museum. The ministry was preparing an exhibit about settlement of the Great Trade Belt in the Cochrane area. This early postcard shows the Cochrane station as it was perhaps in the 1930s and 40s. This 2006 advertisement for Cochrane Station Inn illustrates that it's virtually unchanged. It has a nice outdoor view for the restaurant, however. The Timiskaming and Northern Ontario Railway reached Cochrane long before it was extended to Moosonee. One of the early steam trains is preserved in Cochrane for the Railway Museum, and it's pictured here. This photograph shows the final run of the steam train before its retirement. These photos show the train as you can look at it today. In this one, the railway cars, which serve as a museum, are shown at the back. Photographs like these give tourists a misconception as to polar bears. They are dangerous beasts and they are not found around Moosonee and Moose Factory. Mind you, things aren't helped by the emblem of Cochrane, which is Chimo, a gigantic concrete polar bear. When I used to take the train, approximately 10 times in 1971-72, the locomotives looked like the pictures you're about to see. Since then, they've been modernized. These are the types of locomotives which Ontario Northland or ON Rail uses today to pull their freight trains.
the stars they come stealing at the close of the day. Across the wide prairie our loved ones lie sleeping. Beyond the dark oceans in a place far away.
They also use these engines to pull the Polar Bear Express, as shown in this photograph.
Living on stew and drinking bad whiskey. Mending our backs till
A recent addition has been the dome cars, which were not available when I did my trips. All aboard, it's time we got moving.
laying down track and building the bridges. Mending our backs till the railroad is done.
The equipment in the engine looks complicated. Here we have the communication and computerized equipment. Here's the main throttle and brake. A view from the engine, and you can see the driver to the left. This is the Little Bear, a mixture of freight with passenger cars. The lounge car for relaxation and a meal. A typical passenger car. They're not overly luxurious. We passed through the boreal forest, which covers the Cray Belt. We cross a number of large rivers, including the Abitibi. Views from the dome car. To be truthful, after you've seen the scenery for a few minutes, you've seen it for the next 4 hours. 1980s, the company put out the Polar Bear Express puzzle book to entertain young children who quickly got bored. The Moosonee Headwaters Outfitters allows you to get off the train at Moose River Crossing and paddle the rest of the way. A great idea. The Little Bear also allows you to paddle up the river and stop the train to load your canoe. Northern rivers are very scenic. There's a good chance you might even see a moose or a black bear.
But time has no beginnings and the history has no bounds. As to this verdant country they came from all around. They sailed upon her waterways.
Well, we've dropped off and picked up the canoeists. Let's get on the road again.
And the factories for the good
We're moving into the muskeg country, which surrounds James Bay, filled with black flies.
The railroad men grew restless for to hear the hammers ring. Their minds were overflowing with the visions of their day. With many a fortune won and lost and many a debt to pay. For they looked in the future and what did they see? They saw an iron road running from the sea to the sea, bringing the goods to a young growing land.
We're approaching Moosonee, and here's an aerial photograph I took at one time. The Ontario Northland Railway is located at the left. The main church is right in the center of the photograph. The Moose River, of course, is off to the right.
Eastern shore to the western strand.
The Ontario Northland Station is far from pretentious, a simple frame building. It does welcome you to Moosonee and Moose Factory on the Arctic Tidewater.
Bring up the rails, we gotta lay down the tracks and tear up the trails. Open your heart, let the light
The Little Bear freight cars wait to be loaded and unloaded.
get on our way, 'cause we're moving too slow.
A picture of Moosonee showing the Hudson's Bay Company store and the church to the right.
Blue Rocky, the sun is declining.
The education building, primary and high school. When I was there, I made friends with some of the teachers.
Across the wide prairie, our loved ones.
This was Moosonee in the early 1900s, set up as a fur trading post by a French fur trading company called Rouyn-Noranda. These buildings to the left are typical of their construction, and there's still one left which serves as a museum in Moosonee.
Swinging our hammers in the bright blazing sun.
When I was there were two hotels, the Polar Bear Lodge and the Ontario Northland Hotel. This is an early postcard of the Polar Bear Lodge.
Mending our backs till the long days are done.
It still exists today, virtually unchanged.
The navvies who were upon the railway, swinging our hammers.
The second hotel was the Moosonee Lodge, operated by Ontario Northland Railway. Here's a picture.
Laying down track and building the bridges.
Well, we'll wrap things up. This historic photograph is of some machinery operated by Two Bays, local transport company, which still provides the freight canoes and barges that join Moosonee to Moose Factory on the Moose River. All aboard for the trip home. Thanks for joining me on this trip from Cochrane to Moosonee and back again. I do appreciate your company and hope you have a very pleasant day.